What's up, everybody? Jensen Cummings here. Thank you for tuning in. Great show today. We're going to talk about restaurants, why restaurants are so fucked, and why restaurants are not funked. And I have the author of those two articles, amazing articles, from Joelle Parenteau. Did I say it right?
Nailed it.
Oh, man, I get nervous with people's names because everyone always messes up my name. So I'm very sensitive to that. So you're in Ottawa, Ontario. You have Wolf Down, which is a Berlin-style dinner restaurant, fast casual. So let's lead up to that because I'm very excited. You can see my energy around dinner is high. And I want to get a little bit of your background, talk about your restaurant a little bit to give people context to kind of understand why it was important for you to write those two articles.
Sure. So the way I got introduced or into Donor actually is kind of funny, and that kind of leads to why I now have a restaurant. Basically, my fiance is German. He's the one who introduced me to this food when we went back to Germany to visit his family, and he kept talking about how the Germans had this thing called Donor, and it's the best thing ever, and it was just going to blow my mind. And he hyped it up so much that I was like, I can't possibly live up to the expectations.
Right.
And I was thinking, then, like, how have we never heard of this? What is this? I said, yeah, sure. Lo and behold, we get there. First thing we do, drive to a Donor shop, and I have my first bite, and I'm just like, what? Like, what is this? He was right. I'll give that to him. And basically, kind of every day that trip, we just go back for Donor.
Tell people exactly what it is because it's so craveable. It's such a
So I think the easiest way for people who don't know it, the easiest way to compare it is like it is kind of a cousin to the shawarma or the gyro. But the Germans just do everything better. So the bread is kind of different. The sauce is kind of different. The meat is seasoned different. It's like full of fresh veggies that really balance it all. And it just turns out so much better. But it is essentially this big stuffed pita sandwich with like juicy caramelized meat. It's just
so good. I'm going to start lobbying some of my chef friends out here in Colorado to get one going because the second I read the articles and then linked up with you and then saw what you were doing, I was like, oh, I need that because I spent a lot of time. I grew up in Germany, and you see it. It's a Turkish kind of spin, and then created in the kind of the German street food style. And Kreuzberg is a neighborhood in Berlin where it's on every single corner. I mean, think of like Southern California and the taco trucks. It's like that ubiquitous, and so. Absolutely love that. How has it been received in Ottawa?
Incredibly well. And we really did. We were coming from a place where like no one had any idea what this was. So we had no market knowledge, just come in with this thing that people had never heard of, never seen. When most North Americans think of Germany, they just think sausage. So if we put Berlin street food on the window, people are like, where's my currywurst? And I was like, sorry, but this is something different, but hey, try it. And the funny thing too is Ottawa's a massive shawarma town. So they would see the meat on the vertical grill and they're like, oh, this is German shawarma, like, let's try it. Which was really funny because then when they would try it and they're like, wait, like, what is this?
It's next level.
Yeah, so that's what we had a lot of, not to make enemies with the shawarma shops or anything, but people are like, this is better than shawarma. Like, oh my God, you guys created a better shawarma. I'm like, it wasn't me. It's just the Germans have been keeping this a secret from us for forever. But that's been basically the reaction of just like, this is amazing. How did we not have this already in our lives? which is what I exactly. I was like, so to finish that story, we would come back to Ottawa and we'd just be like, we craved it so bad.
Have to have it.
For like years, we were dying. We're like, someone needs to bring this to Ottawa. And it's always that someone, right? Until we waited long enough and I was kind of like, no one's going to do it, I guess. And with zero restaurant experience, I was just like, well, I get that's how much I love it. I'm like, I guess I'm opening a restaurant because I need to eat this.
Hey, hold on one second. I've got a message that your sound's a little wonky. I'm going to reset and disappear for a second. We're going to make these robots work for us. Hold on, Joelle.
Go.
Par for the course. The technology right now is fucked for sure because everybody's on the internet right now. So
it's crazy. Yeah.
Starting a restaurant. All right. I want to connect the dots now. You are very much in it, right? And you penned these two articles that have similar and also contradictory kind of titles, clearly, themes as well, kind of realistic and what's happening, and then how do we get out of it? So you're in the restaurant, you realize that the restaurant is a hard ass business, like unbelievable. The margin is razor thin. You are so vulnerable to so many outside sources, to a snowstorm that you didn't expect, and you're down 3% and you're fast casual. You can't make it up because nobody's buying bottles of Dom and dropping these huge ticket items. So for you then, thinking about getting in the restaurant business, you get into a place where you're like at flow state, and then COVID hits. Yeah. And why were you compelled to write that article? And then let's give people a little context, kind of what was the meat of that article for you?
So I'd actually been wanting to write that piece for a while. It's just when the restaurant's open, you're way too busy. You're just nonstop. So that is the silver lining of COVID, is it actually gave us time to stop and think. And in my case, I think best by kind of writing and spewing my thoughts onto the page, and that helps me kind of organize them. So in one sense, it was kind of just an exercise to get my thoughts out. In one sense, it was kind of therapeutic because it's somewhat of a rant as well.
Yep.
But also just stemmed from a lot of frustration at customers who didn't understand why things cost what they cost, or just like, excuse my words, but like just the ignorance of people coming in and be like, why is it, but this is just bread and meat and I could go to the grocery store and get that for $3, like that argument. And you're like, well, you don't think we pay rent, and you don't think I paid for the natural gas for this grill to perfectly grill your meat. And that, so whether they think of just the ingredients as like literally, oh, well, I can go get a piece of bread for this, a loaf of bread for this much. I'm like, well, this is custom made artisan bread from a bakery that no, you can't get for that price. And not only is it not those ingredients, but like, we made this sauce. Someone had to make it. It didn't just come as sauce. Yeah. I know that's how you buy sauce, but that's not how it works for us. Or like labor costs, for instance, like, well, it took you like 3 minutes to make my sandwich. We're like, yeah, because someone cut all the cucumbers for 5 hours before. Like, they just, and it's not their fault. They're just not realizing, they haven't thought of all the things that happen behind the scenes, so that we can just be like, here, delicious food, you're welcome. Right. So it was kind of also just trying to explain that, just trying to go, here, look. And I think maybe I was able to do it probably easier because I'm fairly new to this. So this is literally like all the shit I learned personally in the past year by actually opening this business, and realize, oh shit, I have to pay for this. Oh, it takes you this long to do that. So, I mean, I just learned all of this, and we're still learning all of it. And when it comes to the cost side of that, my strength is business and optimizing this kind of stuff. So I went, okay, well, I'm pretty good at building a good process or negotiating different things. So I think I'll be able to do a lot with that. And we have done a lot with that. But even then, I could only get the margins so to a certain point. And you go, well, I've squeezed all I can squeeze. Like, we have an efficient line. We have a streamlined process. We have the smallest menu ever. I've basically optimized everything I can, much further than I think a lot of restaurants have gone, because that's just like how the entrepreneurial brain works. I'm just like, what can we call it? We're super scrappy. That startup mentality, it's like lean. And even then, we can only get it so far. And that's where I went. So as the status quo, that's a fucked up model. Like, it doesn't work. I've squeezed everything I can, and we can still only manage this. I can't even imagine what some other restaurants are at. And so that's where I started my thought process. Like going into COVID was like, shit, this business model doesn't work. I've been doing it for almost a year now.
Yep.
Here's where we're at. The numbers are still just like, we weren't losing money, but we're not going to be like doing very well. And I want to pay my people more. And there's other things I wanted to accomplish with it. So I took a few weeks to think about it, and basically came out with, okay, what are the things that we can do to fix this? And they're kind of obvious. So the first one is, well, the easiest way to increase your margin is increase your prices.
Right.
And if I had sat there and kind of talked the talk of like, that's the answer, then I had to, of course, step up and lead that and do that. So we did. So, and it's a scary thing to do because you don't know how people are going to react. The irony is, of course, we're totally overthinking it because no one said anything. Half the people didn't notice. No one complained. People were saying like as long as the value is there. So I mean, we, did our end of the deal where we provide really good food that people are willing to pay for. We just had to ask them to pay more for it, and if they're happy to. So that means that we've proven ourselves that we deserve, or we've earned that value. So that of course you can't just mindlessly increase prices. Like there is a market
Sure.
there.
There is some economic factors at play, some expectations of the market for sure. Here's what I thought was the most interesting, reading both your articles. One, just the titles of them clearly jump off the page and are provocative. And I see stuff like that a lot. And I'm like, there's no depth. There's no substance to this. They're just trying to have a clickbait name. Yet I read the article. I was like, there's a lot here. There's a lot of personal angst. There's a lot of creative thinking. There was a lot of just sharing your story. And the reason that we're talking right now more than anything is because you wrote the second article, right? So we have why restaurants are so fucked. And it laid it out. You laid out cost structures. And it was interesting because those of us that have come up in the restaurant business, it's like, well, yeah, that's how it is. That's how it's always been, which is wrong. And that's not an excuse for bad practices, which we just kind of malaise over. You are coming from the outside and you're like, what is wrong with you guys? Like, why would you allow this to be the status quo? So I felt you on that front. And it put you in a position because it got a lot of attention that now I'm like, all right, now Joelle has the platform. Now you have a responsibility, whether you wanted it or not, and I believe that you did, to make the next step. Because the next step is always the important step. You can tell everyone that everything's fucked, but if there's not a way out of it, then you're just complaining, right? And you wrote the second article, which was very compelling, and you broke it down into 9 steps, the 9 things that you thought were important. And I don't want to necessarily go through every one of those. We'll link up both articles so people can go and check them out on Medium themselves. But for you, why was it so important then to follow up and follow through with that second article and really lay out an actual plan? It may not be everybody's plan because it's such a personal decision, but you had your plan, and a lot of it is holistically thinking about the challenges of the industry. So why first the second article, and then we'll talk about what the article actually entails a little bit.
Yeah, great question. So I've kind of one rule that I try to live by. It's a tough one to actually, and I'm not going to pretend I'm perfect, but that is, if you're going to complain about something, do something about it. Like you don't just get to whine and bitch. And I see way too much of that, and that's actually one of the things I probably complain about the most is people just bitching and not freaking fixing it. And I see that sadly a lot in this industry. There's no more obvious example than people bitching about delivery. And all they focus in on is what it costs. Yep. Without actually looking at all the advantages that it brings. Like, do you not realize that all of a sudden Uber Eats has given me the power any moment of any day to say if my hungry customer is craving Wolf Down, they're like, don't worry, I got it. This guy's going to come to my store and he's going to bring it to you like that.
Yeah.
Like, And you know, that's going to cost you a bit more. They're like, no problem, I'll pay whatever.
Convenience thing.
Crazy. And people are like, we hate Uber Eats, it takes 30%. Okay, just increase your price to compensate for it, and then see if your customer still wants it. Because you know, your customer on the other end of Uber Eats, if he's asking for it, and you say, okay, but it's going to cost more, and they still say, yeah, whatever, get it to me, then who are you to say, well, no, you know what, I don't like Uber Eats, so you have to drive to me down here, whether you can get here or not, whether you have a car or not, whether that's realistic or not. Yeah, sorry, we don't have parking. Like, deal with it. That's what's better for me as a restaurant. Like, that's not how business is.
Yeah, you can try and fight the market, but you're going to lose every single time.
I'm always this is like the customer. Like, he freaking wants it delivered to them, to his door in his hands. Why would I not give him that option? And that's what's driving me crazy, that restaurants are just saying, like, no, they take 30%. I want the customer to come to me. And like
my next thing is always like, invest in the technology, create your own platform, find 25 restaurants in your neighborhood and create the downtown Ottawa empire of your own. So like, I think absolutely, I understand the predatory practice side, and I understand you're never going to fight the market. And the fact that you can make money outside of your four walls is an amazing opportunity for restaurants. And so I'm always on the, like, do it, and then figure out a way to own the resource as the restaurant. So I'm with you 100%. So it was important for you to not just bitch, but actually have some solutions. And so you broke out the solutions. And so the 9 solutions, maybe just give us a couple of them, just kind of the high level ones that are most important to you. Doubling down on delivery was one of them. Raising your prices, you mentioned that. I think you said it funny. Price fixing, but not the illegal way. I like that. I like that a lot. What are a couple of the other items for you that were big ticket items that were important?
See, one that I really believe in is, I called it Stop Playing Games, and it's about promos and discounts and all these gimmicks and buy one, get this and this, that. Like, honestly, in my opinion, you're devaluing your brand, because you're saying that there's not the value there that people should be paying full price for. And you're also you're just making it worse. You're just helping customers justify that your food shouldn't cost what it costs, and you're conditioning them to wait for deals. So, I mean, the odd customer we come in, they're like, oh, is there no deal? We're like, no. Simple as that. And none of them have walked out. They all just pay the full price, and then they're like, oh shit, this was delicious. So if you believe that you are providing value and you're providing great food, and why would you be in this industry if you don't, you have to stand by that. And your margins can't handle it. Even if Uber asks us, you know, sometimes they do promos, like, do you want to do a BOGO? I'm like, no. We're bleeding money. Why would we ever do that? If they want 2, like, that's just, we've gotten, unfortunately, so conditioned to think that we need to play these games to get customers. And you're just shooting yourself in the foot. So, like, just stop.
Just stop. So we talked about a little bit earlier, and for people that watch the show, they know we've been working on, we call the Phoenix Project, very much rising from the ashes, an opportunity to create the industry that is equitable, profitable, and sustainable, which the model currently is not, that you've articulated. And I think it's well known, but now we're having to grapple with the reality of that. And we have the 2 Paragon pillars: 20% net profit, 75% employee retention satisfaction. How do we outcome ourselves to those goals? And I'm pretty sure I'm going to switch it and follow your lead, because you said, fuck COVID-19, let's go for 19% net profit. And then I love that. I absolutely love taking a negative and flipping it and owning it, and then turning it into your own positive outcome. So why was that important? And then talk about 19%, because you're finding your way there.
It was, so that number, I mean, it's not crazy. It's what other industries are, you know, on average. If you take all these different industries, the tech world that I come from more, that seems like a very reasonable number. And I think it's about resetting expectations and putting our foot down and going just like this. It's what it's got to be. We can't keep going on like this. That's what I think the silver lining with COVID is. It's tough. It's brutal. Like, there's no doubt about it. It's tragic for many restaurants. At the end of the day, though, we have to go. We were like in this vicious cycle, and we were just kept going. It was too crazy. We just kept going. So we kind of needed a slap in the face to go like, wake the fuck up. This is not cool. And I go into the industry knowing this. It's not like all of a sudden, like,
we gotta reset our expectations again. One more time, we'll make it happen. Hold on. It's fucking always something. What a reset. All right, so the reset, yes, absolutely, because it was this vicious cycle. We're always in like a scarcity mindset, always in survival mode, and we just don't have time to do the thing that we know is the thing because we're just trying to get through the day. But these platitudes, like, we're only as good as our last plate, and these things that just like fuel our own demise too often. So you needed the reset. You see the opportunity for that. And then how are you actually deploying that kind of in your business now, and how are you getting to 19%?
The easiest, most obvious one, though it seems the most painful, is like literally we just increased our prices. That was necessary, non-negotiable. And then the second thing that we're really trying to do is figure out what else we can do to better utilize our current assets. So whether that's ghost kitchens or virtual kitchens, how can we make the business unit economics work even better? We all know straight up economies of scale, volume, so growth is certainly something that's on our mind. But if you don't want to grow, you can do that. You touched on it, like teaming up with others. Can you like, there's still certain costs that with experience and with size you can kind of try to get down. Or in the case of a ghost kitchen, going, okay, if we have this idle space, or if we have labor that has some downtime, how can we utilize that and to increase sales and to increase margins? And that's something I'm really exploring right now, looking at complementary concepts that we can run out of Wolf Den. And that's just, we're still at the kind of prototyping stage, but I think that opens up a whole other opportunity to increase sales without increasing our overhead costs. It's basically really kind of how can you maximize the productivity of both your space and your people.
Yeah, I'm very interested. One of the other parts of the model of what we're doing with the Phoenix project is to like try and really create true partnerships through the whole ecosystem, every single line item on a P&L. And there's a lot of them, people, a lot of them. How can they invest in the sustainability of the restaurant industry? Because I mean, you look at real estate, for example. It used to be the JCPenney's and the Macy's and the Sears were the reason that people went to an area. Now it's restaurants. Restaurants are the cornerstone. They are the flagship. They're the mainstay, and they're not utilizing their leverage. So the norm of 10% of your gross revenues being your rent, how do we get that to 7.1%? What investments can be made? Can we figure out a way that payroll taxes and workman's comp you end up at 1.37x of what an employee's base salary is? How do you get to 1.31? Like, there's a lot of levers to pull if you're actually trying to do partnerships. So I'm very fascinated because that's clearly your mindset goes directly there, and we need more of that. So I know we'll be checking back in with you on some of that. So as we wrap up, any last thoughts for you? Joelle, are restaurants fucked or not?
Not if you're willing to adapt.
Yes, that's it. Done. Episode done. Not if you're willing to adapt. Sophie, make sure you put that big all in bold. Restaurants are not fucked if you're willing to adapt. That's it. That's the punchline, right?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's so important. So, Joelle, I really appreciate that you wrote both the articles. They were very heartfelt and they were very tactical as well, which I appreciate both.
Thank you.
I am so excited that there's dinner out there. I'm calling on everybody I know anywhere, especially in Colorado. We need dinner. Look into it. Check it out. It's some of the best stuff ever. I thank your fiance at the time for what.
For sure. Yeah.
He changed Ottawa forever.
He has in many ways. But specifically, donor is the tastiest.
I appreciate the conversation. Appreciate the leadership that you're showing, communication. I'm sure that we'll stay in touch. There's a lot more work that needs to happen to get restaurants to the new Paragon pillar of 19% net profits. I love it. Joelle, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
All right, cheers. Have a great day.
Cheers.
19%. I love it. I'm changing. We're pivoting. Everybody is working on Paragon pillars. Andrew Parr, Sophie Breaker, everybody, Mario Nasafera. We're going to 19%. I like 20%. It's round. It sounds like you're in the 20s, but 19%, it feels pretty right in this moment as a little fuck you to COVID, as Joelle put it. So appreciate that. Appreciate the thoughtfulness. We will get those articles linked up that she wrote on Medium. They're great. They're quick. They're heartfelt. They're tactical. They're funny. I think it checks a lot of boxes. And again, the most important part, the reason that I had to have Joelle on was because the first article, it was clickbait. It's in your face. It's a title of an article that's like, yep, that's going to go viral. Yet there was substance to it. And the second article, that is what's important. It's the follow through that comes out of it. So you're not just complaining, you're addressing the issues. It sucks. It's a struggle. It's personally taxing. There's so much turmoil in it. Yet, now what do we do? That was really clear in the way that she laid it out. So grateful to have her on. And I just love the serendipity of continuing to be connected with good people. I read the second article. I'd read the first article. I was like, okay. I read the second article because Felipe Ospina, who's in one of my Facebook groups out in Chicago, posted it, saw it, read it, reached right out to Joelle on Twitter, I think, got connected with her, said, yep, let's have her on. And that was last week. And this week, she's on the show so that we can have a conversation. Keep sharing, people, because it leads to good shit. All right, everybody. Appreciate you. That's it for today. Tomorrow, Todd Leopold of Leopold Brothers, Master Distiller, is on. We're going to talk about spirits, the spirit of spirits. And also, I want to give more shout outs to distillers for hand sanitizer. I keep seeing more and more people out there with the hand sanitizer. I just love the ingenuity, the creativity, the pivot that it takes to do that. So super cool, super special. Somebody that I've looked up to for a lot of years, gotten to do a lot of fun stuff with them on the spirit side, some events, things like that. So we're going to check in with Todd Leopold. All right, everybody. Adapt. And you too will not be fucked.